Hi, this is Natalie Hoffman of FlyingFreeNow.com, and you're listening to the Flying Free Podcast, a support resource for women of faith looking for hope and healing from hidden emotional and spiritual abuse. Welcome to episode 332 of the Flying Free Podcast. This week, we're going to do something quite different from what we usually do. And at the time of this recording, I haven't even sent this email out yet. But by the time you're listening to this episode, the email that I am going to send out to my mailing list will have been sent out a couple of months ago. And maybe you are sitting in your car listening to this and you're like, oh, I totally remember that email. Or maybe you're sitting in your car or you're doing your dishes or you're on your way to work or whatever, and you're thinking, I have no idea what she's talking about. Well, I'm actually going to read that email to you today in this episode because it's an important email. It was an important announcement that I wanted to make about a survey. It's an annual survey that I send to all of our Flying Free Kaleidoscope members each year. It's a satisfaction survey. And we got some interesting insights, and people shared some amazing things this time around that I wanted to share with everyone. It's not going to be my voice today now. You're going to hear the voices, the collective voices of hundreds of other Christian women who are going through the same things that you're going through. Okay, so here's how the email starts. Every year, we ask our incredible Flying Free Kaleidoscope members to spill the tea. Anonymously, of course, because this wasn't part of my email, but I'll just say this. We want people to tell us what they honestly think about the Kaleidoscope, about our program, without feeling like, I don't know about you, but I always kind of feel bad giving feedback if it's going to be bad or negative in some way. And sometimes I don't want, I can be afraid that maybe I'm going to get blacklisted or something. And I don't know, maybe some of you aren't like that, but some of you probably are. And so just to protect everyone, we make sure that nobody has to tell us their names or their email address. We have no idea who any of these people are. Well, we know that they're in the program, but we don't know who. We can't tie a specific person to each of the feedbacks that we get. Okay, so back to the email now. To spill the tea, anonymously, of course, on how they're experiencing the program. And once again, you did not hold back in the best possible way. And by the way, I say you because this email was originally sent out to our members just to let them know the results of the satisfaction survey that they completed. And then I decided to send it out to my whole mailing list just because it was so incredibly encouraging that I just thought, I'm just going to send it to everyone. All right. So you shared the good, the great, and the gloriously life-changing. So let's start with some numbers that made us do a little happy dance. 70% of our members have been in Flying Free for over a year, and a quarter of them have been with us for more than 3 years. That's not just a program, that is a healing home base. 60% of you are getting your freedom fix through the Kaleidoscope app on your phone, while the rest are tapping in through a browser. Either way, 88% say that it's easy to use. That's a win for your tech brain and your trauma brain. 91% found the onboarding process to be smooth. And 80% of you watched our tutorials, which, let's be real, makes you a special kind of unicorn in an age of scroll and skip. When we asked what resource impacted you the most, 41% of you said, "Don't make me choose, I love them all." But for those of you who did choose, 27% picked courses and workshops, and 22% picked coaching. But here's the number that made us tear up in the best way. 96% of members would recommend Flying Free to other women. And almost half of you gave us a 10 out of 10 on the satisfaction scale. If this were Rotten Tomatoes, we'd be certified fresh and then some. But stats are just the beginning. You also opened your hearts and shared what life was like before Flying Free and what began to shift after you joined. And oh, friend, the transformation is real. If you've ever believed you were the problem, if you've ever felt like you were losing your ever-loving mind, if you've ever begged God for a lifeline, this next part is for you. Keep reading for raw, beautiful, soul-lifting stories of what happens when Christian women start flying free. It's never too late for healing. It's never too late for you. So, here's what members said they believed and felt in their bodies before they joined Flying Free. And ask yourself, does this sound like you? Before I joined Flying Free, I believed that I had ruined my marriage somehow. I believed that God had laid requirements on my life, and all my life I felt guilty because I never measured up. I felt trapped in my own guilt. I was going around and around in circles in my mind, grieving. My husband left me, saying I was the problem, and guilting and being angry and disbelieving and all the things. I'm going to just do a little pause in between each one. That was what one person said. I blamed myself a lot for the breakdown of my marriage. I used Proverbs 14:1 to spiritually abuse myself, if that's possible, especially since I really tried to make it work. I thought that I must be having a nervous breakdown and was imagining things or being oversensitive. I felt bewildered and very, very confused and numb. I believed so many lies about myself, the Word of God, and how I should show up in life. I felt worthless. I believed I was the problem. I felt hopeless and like I was crazy. I was doing everything I could to save my marriage at the expense of me, and nothing was working. I believed it was my fault. If I was just a better wife, I felt trapped, exhausted, suicidal, and that no one would understand what I was going through. I was doing a horrible job of being a mom, wife, daughter, etc. I believed I was doing something wrong, felt confused, doing things to change how I communicated, thinking things could change if I could only find the right way to do it. I believed I was trapped in a horrible marriage. I felt hopeless and stuck. I was doing so many things that didn't help or actually made things worse, based upon very bad marriage advice from Christians. I believed lies about myself. I believed God hates divorce and staying for the kids is the best. I felt like I couldn't keep living like this, and I was trapped. I was doing nothing. I was frozen. I believed I had no choice. I felt lost and hopeless. I was drowning. I believed the kids needed both parents together. I felt stuck. I was buffering between him and the kids, trying to protect them from him. I believed that I had to endure abuse to be a good Christian. I believed I wasn't worthy of anything better. I believed boundaries are sinful. I was terrified of what my husband would do when I left. I was terrified of the court process. I believed in male headship and in my second-rate status as a female. I believed I was crazy. I felt alone. I felt ashamed. I felt lost. I believed I was the problem and was unfixable. I felt hopeless. I was deep in a months-long regression, using all my dysfunctional coping skills to deal with past trauma that was resurfacing, and I didn't know what to do about it. I believed I was the problem, crazy and alone, all the things to fix me to make my marriage better. I believed that everyone in the church cared more about the way my marriage looked than about me as a person. I was scared and unsure how to proceed with getting legal help. I believed there was no way to relieve my pain. I felt frustrated and helpless. I was still trying to get my husband to change. I believed I was the problem. Do you notice how many people are saying that? I believe I was the problem. Tired all the time, and I had no energy, nothing but ruminating over my marriage. I believed I had no choice but to live the life I was living. I felt hollow. I was doing the bare minimum each day to just get by. I believed I had to stay in my marriage. I felt trapped. I was doing everything for everyone. I was barely able to identify my feelings. I had such strong emotions, yet those emotions were stuffed down and not really felt. I believed I had no value. I felt alone and broken. I was doing everything wrong. I believed I was stuck. I felt like I wasn't capable of making the decisions I needed to make, or that I was wrong. I felt confused and like I was going in circles. I believed things must change, but I was rather stuck. I felt angry and frustrated. I was doing a program with other women who, I believe, are partly stuck because they hold on to a way of thinking that puts women in a hierarchy below men. I had to find something more affirming of women and God's view of us. I believed that women couldn't say no without disappointing God. I was dead in my marriage. I needed to know I wasn't alone. I needed guidance, encouragement, and hope. Before I joined Flying Free, I believed my needs were not valid and I needed to be rescued. I felt stuck and confused. I ruminated on the painful way my husband treated me and on ways to fix it, and I tried to control him and my son. I believed I was stuck in this marriage for life. I barely had a voice in many areas of our relationship. I had no energy to move forward. We're almost done with these, by the way, but I just want to interject something. If any of you are thinking, oh, dear goodness gracious me, why is she just reading all of these? I'm doing it because I want to give these people a voice. Every single one of you that's thinking these thoughts, you represent probably thousands and thousands of other women who are thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same way. And you deserve to have a voice. You deserve to be heard. The whole world should hear what's happening in these marriages. It frustrates me to no end to think about all of these women that are literally drowning and dying in their so-called Christian marriages, and they can't get out because of what people are telling them. Oh, now I've lost my place. Let's see. I believed I would always carry the damage he caused and probably never functioned like a normal person. I was doing everything I could to reclaim my life and heal, but I didn't know where to find the information I needed. I believed I was stuck, felt confused, and was doing very little. I believed there was no hope. I felt trapped. I was doing nothing anymore because I had completely shut down. I was still obsessing over trying to collect evidence to validate my confusion and hurt by his cheating, lying, and gaslighting. And finally, I believed I was the only Christian wife who had completely failed to be a good wife because no matter how hard I tried, my husband was dissatisfied. I felt empty, like a hollow shell. I wanted to die. I just want to pause and give some space to that. But it doesn't end there, because these women got help. And this is what these same women said that they believed and that they felt in their bodies after they began to do their healing work in the Flying Free program. And so if any of these other things have resonated with you, I want you to have hope, because this is what is possible for you as well. Here's what they said. After I joined Flying Free, I began to feel hopeful that God was more loving than I thought and didn't require me to suffer for the rest of my days. I began to show up by taking control of my thoughts, setting boundaries, and respecting others' boundaries. I began to believe that there was joy in believing in God after all, that He really did have a plan to work everything out in the end, and that the gospel really was good news rather than the tale of horror I really felt it was. I began to relax and let life happen and find peace and comfort in God. I started to do the things I wanted to do and learned to do things I had to do without my husband, like fixing mowers and driving the tractor. I now have joy and independence and finally feel like an adult. It's become clear that I was emotionally abused for so long. I used to struggle with saying that. It has been validating to know that my case isn't unique, and the courses have been very helpful in understanding what I went through and where my blind spots were. I've grown a lot since starting the courses. I am advocating for myself a lot more, and I've also seen areas where I was wrong too, and where I needed to make some tweaks and grow before going into my next relationship. After I began my work of healing and Flying Free, I had vocabulary for my experiences and realized I wasn't crazy. The brain fog cleared as I came to believe that I had agency, that I was my own hero, and that I could be comfortable with people disagreeing with my decisions. I learned my core values and how to use my boundaries to protect them. I began to feel worthy of sacrificial care and realized I wasn't getting it in my marriage, so I decided to leave. I felt empowered to go through the scary process of hiring an attorney, hiring a divorce coach, and grabbing a divine opportunity to move out. I've also been working with a therapist. The combination of that, along with what I've learned in Flying Free, has me showing up more authentically with agency, grace, and confidence. At the beginning, Flying Free was like my oxygen tank underwater. Now that I'm almost across the raging river, I'm only ankle deep now, I no longer feel that desperation. But I do want to stay connected with this community because of the friendships I've developed. I look forward to joining Flying Higher soon. I'm eternally grateful for Flying Free. I learned that what I was experiencing was a thing. I was a true caterpillar and ate up everything. I did every piece of work suggested in the courses and listened to the coaching over and over again. I learned that I have self-worth and agency, more and more freedom to show up as me. I even like who I am now. I feel like I'm finally diving into all that the kaleidoscope has to offer for so much here. I now believe I am not the problem, but I do need healing and to give myself grace. I began to feel hope and worthy of love. I began to show up for my life by being kind and graceful to myself, setting boundaries, refusing to allow myself to be abused, and learning. I feel so much healthier and stronger, and I thank you so very much. I know that I can be a Christian, follow the heart and character of God and Jesus Christ, whether or not I select a church, and I can love other hurting women better than I was shown love. I can support myself now, and I have choices about what I will do and where I choose to live. I am not stuck anymore. Along with my precious butterfly buddies, I am beginning to fly free. I began to believe, whoa, this is called abuse. I believed I could get out and that it wasn't the end of the world if I divorced a horrible man. God does not want me to be abused. I began to feel strong. I began to show up for my life by going through a life-changing divorce and buying a peaceful home. I realized I could do really hard things. I love the connections I've made through Flying Free. Y'all are absolutely amazing. I'm not a Southern gal. I'm not sure I said that correctly. Y'all? Did I say that the way a Minnesota person would say it? Sorry about that. I made friends and connected with others online and in real life. I felt validated, heard, and understood, improved my self-talk, and I learned how to give myself what I wanted from others. Now I have my own back. I own my choices and let others have their feelings and life experiences. For me, the biggest part of the program I found the most helpful was my ability to interact with my ex. During my in-house separation, I was able to gray rock like I was never able to before and really get my head around my boundaries. And then once I moved out, I never looked back. All the coaching and classes taught me how to change my thinking about everything to do with his abuse and see it for what it really was. I cannot express how much this has changed my life for getting divorced and now showing my children who I actually am and providing space and healing for them and me. I began to believe God has more for me, began to feel empowered, enlightened, and free by doing what was best for me and my kids with God by my side. I began to believe I had a choice and a voice. I felt hope and empowered and dared to believe I could be happy. I believed I could get out of an unhappy marriage. I show up for my life by enforcing boundaries, recognizing the pattern of abuse, and choosing life, not being gaslit. I began to believe I'm not crazy or the problem. I began to believe I'm worth taking up space in this world again. I began to feel more compassionate to myself. I began to show up for my life by seeing everything through my new lens/BS filter. I no longer sacrifice myself in the presence of recognized manipulation tactics. I'm improving my relationships with my adult children and they are learning mental health strategies too. When I started listening to the coaching, doing the courses, starting posting questions and concerns, I started to really see things differently, more clearly, and felt like I could make some very hard choices more resolutely. My thoughts and beliefs shifted, and I feel more free in God's grace and love. I understand His love better as I'm reading the Bible and praying and processing messages from various pulpits. I feel believed in and supported and tremendously helped by the love, experiences, wisdom, compassion, and perspectives of all the women in the forum as well as the coaches. As time has gone on, I see myself in some of the new butterflies coming in and feel I can offer encouragement because of the things I've learned. I'm amazed that in less than a year, I have learned about boundaries, what a healthy relationship should and should not look like, especially as a Christian. I'm still learning to show up for myself by taking my own self-destructive thoughts and beliefs captive, and I'm starting to dream and pray for the next 1, 2, 5, and 10 years of my life and what the possibilities are there. I no longer believe my husband has more power than he actually does. I no longer believe I have less power than I actually do. I act as if I have a right to make decisions in my own and the kids' best interest, even if he doesn't agree and acts out, because I do. I had options. I felt seen and heard and validated and inspired. I started believing in myself, validating myself, hearing myself. I raked all the loose matter into a pile and sat down to sort it out. I began to believe I had value, that I could speak up for myself and that my voice mattered. I began to have my own back and to take care of myself. I began to trust myself. This is huge. I began to work on my healing. I now believe that some of my behaviors were a problem, but I can learn new behaviors. I began to feel like I'm not alone anymore. I began to show up for my life by looking at things that cause me to react emotionally, asking myself what is at the root cause of this reaction, and what thoughts and actions are needed to address this issue. I began to believe in myself. I began to feel hope for a future. I began to show up for my life by finding my voice. I am able to pause and look into myself and identify triggers and pain. I am free to feel. I am free to appreciate and love me. I was helped so much just by seeing that many others had gone through what I had, and it helped solidify what I had been learning. I can admit that when I first joined, it was a tiny triggering, but that helped me realize I still had some work to do, and I can now say that I haven't been triggered in a long time. I can walk through therapy more independently. I began to feel supported, sane, hopeful, and joyful again. I learned that I'm not crazy and that I can do this with the right support. The courses gave me a one step in front of the other way out of the darkness in my mind. I look forward to continuing my healing with this program. I began to believe in my personal power to improve my life. I began to feel hopeful and powerful. I began to show up for my life by taking control of what I actually had the power to change. I believe that I am valued and not crazy, empowered and encouraged, validating my own experiences. I began to feel validated. I felt heard. I felt Natalie was speaking to me in every class and coaching session. I related to many women's stories about love, heartache, brokenness. I began to see I was not alone. I began to believe I am not the problem. Began to feel, aha, that's why this is happening. Calmly stating my opinions and just not giving in. Holding calmly to my positions. I knew I had a choice as to whether I wanted to stay in my marriage or not. I began to feel a sense of freedom. I began to show up for my life by separating from my husband and refusing to tolerate his abusive behaviors. I began to believe healing was possible. I began to feel like I had the tools within my reach to grow stronger and heal my broken places. I began to show up in my life by finding the things I needed physically, emotionally, and mentally to help me cope and move through my moments of struggle and living my life each day with the goal to be as healthy as possible. I began to believe that God loves me more than He loves anniversaries. I began to feel hopeful. I showed up by leaving, staying gone, starting my master's degree, and getting mentally healthier than I have ever been. I began to work on my healing. I began to believe that I was a capable person who was allowed to make grown-up decisions, and if I choose divorce, I'm not wrong or bad. I began to show up for myself with stronger convictions about my boundaries and able to give myself validation for the things that are important to me. I began to work on my healing, and I began to believe I was actually learning and growing. My anger was a phase and not an evil, but I could learn to handle it better. I began to feel calmer and better prepared. I began to show up for my life by not falling as often into his nonsense and knowing that I'll keep learning and growing and see where that takes me. I feel empowered and supported to begin my journey. Wasn't that amazing? I was just so gratified to hear all of those beautiful testimonies. There are some other things that members wrote as well, and I want to share some of those too. So here are some other comments. Flying Free is an excellent deal and very helpful and effective. Flying Free is the best program out there. Honestly, the resources and workshops you get for the money every month is so valuable. Natalie is a truth teller, and I love her approach. She is such an encouragement to Christian women all over. Flying Free has changed my whole world. I'm growing so much. By the way, I just want to say, well, when you think about it, costs $29 a month, okay? So you think about that, and sometimes we think, for $29, what can I get? Well, you can get workshops, you can get classes, you can get courses, you can get butterfly stories, you can get coaching, you can listen to coaching, you can get coaching in the forum, you get access to other women. There's so many resources in there, okay? So $29 a month for all of that. And that seems like a lot, but what's important about Flying Free is not all the resources. What's important about Flying Free and what $29 means is that transformation that I just read. All of those people that said who they were after Flying Free, that's what you're paying for. $29 a month. I spend $29 if I take a couple of my 2 or 3 of my kids out for, McDonald's. Maybe not quite $29 at McDonald's, but almost, depending on what they want. So I'm just saying, it's like at McDonald's or to change your life in a month. I promise you, every month is going to be a new transformation for you. And you don't have to pay monthly. You get 2 months free if you get a whole year, $290 for an entire year of this change. And also when you join for a year, you get a digital copy of my book, Is It Me? Making Sense of Your Confusing Marriage, and a digital copy of the workbook. And by the way, you can't get a digital copy of the workbook anywhere else in any other way. I don't sell it. Amazon sells a hard copy of the workbook, but not the digital copy. And for those of you who have to keep things kind of secret and on the hush-hush, digital copies are kind of nice to have. And you'll get one when you join for a year. It's one of the bonuses. So 2 months free plus those digital copies. Is this content resonating with you? I've written a book for women of faith in destructive relationships called Is It Me? Making Sense of Your Confusing Marriage, a Christian woman's guide to hidden emotional and spiritual abuse. You can read reviews and find out more about my book on Amazon.com. It comes in paperback, Kindle, and Audible formats. I've also created a companion workbook for Is It Me, also available on Amazon. This workbook is like 11 power-packed therapy sessions to help you process through the important material you'll be learning from my book. These books are recommended by counselors and therapists all over the United States. I've also got a website specifically focused on helping women of faith find hope and healing. It's called flyingfreenow.com, and I'd love to give you the first chapter of my book and the first chapter of the companion workbook for free when you hop on my mailing list at the top of my website. Those 2 resources are going to help you figure out if your relationship is normal or destructive. Now, let's get back to our episode. All right, let's keep reading some of what these people say. It's like a one-stop shopping for all the resources you need in one program, and it's user-friendly, even for untech-savvy people like myself. Flying Free is a wealth of information in a safe place. Flying Free has given me the most helpful information and inspiration far above any other resource I have found. 110%, it's the most comprehensive program on spiritual and emotional abuse, and it's a great value. I can't believe how different I am from over a year ago. I feel more confident and healed, although I am still a work in progress. My relationship with my children has improved as I've learned how to handle things differently. We hear that a lot, by the way. And that is something that changed my relationship with my children, is these very things that I teach you guys. I'm teaching all of you the hard lessons that I had to learn the hard way, and through reading hundreds of books and making a lot of mistakes and then learning and growing myself. And then I've put it together in this program for you. And my parenting has been completely transformed by the things that I've learned and that I teach in this program. So if you're a mom like me, I mean, those of us who are moms, there's nothing more that we want in this world than to have amazing relationships with our children and to love our children and to give them the best opportunities at life that we possibly can. And when I say best opportunities, I'm not talking about a college education. I'm not talking about money or a new car. I am talking about mental health. Giving our kids the gift of mental health and the best chance at that so that they can have good, healthy relationships themselves and avoid some of the things that we had to learn the hard way. That is an amazing gift that we can give to our kids. But we have to do our own personal work, right? Flying Free is an excellent deal and very helpful and effective. Natalie's approach to changing the mindset is unique and powerful for me. It totally changed my view of myself and others and my marriage situation. It has given me direction and peace and comfort and restored my sanity. Flying Free has been a game changer for me. Flying Free has helped me more than anything else, including counseling. The support is amazing, and I love being able to access the courses and information whenever I want at my own pace and the subjects I need when I need them. I don't know where I would be without it. Flying Free has changed my life. The support from other members is amazing. Flying Free is a great program and resource. There isn't anything like it. This has been a transformational experience. The coaching, connection, and courses are valuable resources I continue to learn from. Y'all have helped me so much. This must be the same one who said y'all before. I would definitely recommend you to other survivors. The courses and coaching have changed my life and my programming so completely. I love how I think differently through my divorce and separation. This group has saved and changed my life completely and for the better. Flying Free is a wealth of resources for those in or coming out of an abusive relationship. All the coaches are really approachable, and it helps to know one is not alone in this situation. Real, lived experience and advice. Great support from the coaches and community. You realize you're not crazy and you're not alone. The courses are super helpful. It helps you know that you're not alone and gives you a lighted runway, like the breadcrumbs in Hansel and Gretel, to follow to a better place. I had years of counseling from a psychologist and a pastor. While their advice was good, it took going through coursework here to be able to say, now I know how to put that advice into practice. I'm so much better than I was 2 years ago, thanks to you, your colleagues, and all of your work. Flying Free is so validating and helpful. It's the antidote for the isolation and confusion I have experienced in my marriage. It is life-giving and full of resources. As someone who struggles with depression and hopelessness, it is vital to have a way to reach out for help at a moment's notice during a crisis. This has been that source of help and sanity many times. Flying Free is the best information and support for emotional abuse that I've seen. The balanced combination of real-time concerns and advice from actual butterflies, super helpful and rich coursework, and archived content just works. The knowledge, validation, and support I've received have been invaluable. The education is so life-changing in understanding why our relationship can be so confusing. I finally understand what's really going on. The coaching that takes place in the forum helps me to take the concepts that I'm learning and apply it to my real-life situations. The courses and coaching sessions have helped me heal and deal with my soon-to-be ex's behavior. I do not struggle as much with personalizing what he says to me or feeling the need to fix him. This is a wealth of information. It's like all the books I've read on self-help and recovery all rolled into one place. I've learned a lot about myself and all relationships. I learned to let go of what I cannot control and just concentrate on me and what I can do and have done through the resources here. I gained the courage to leave my toxic marriage. It was one of the hardest and best decisions I have ever made. And we reconciled, and my marriage is stronger than it was before. 1.5 years later, it's still going strong. Finding my voice was one of the best gifts I've ever received. I know some people have said, oh, if you join Flying Free, you'll be encouraged to get a divorce. That is not true. That is not true. That's a sad, sad rumor. I don't tell anyone what to do. What I do is encourage people to make their own decisions. I empower women to become the adults that they are and to make their own adult decision. I don't know your situation. I don't know anyone's situation. Some of you, like this person, I think this is rare. I've rarely seen this, but it can happen. She started changing her own self enough to leave her toxic marriage and then ended up getting back together. And now they've got a healthy marriage. So that can happen too. Flying Free has given me life-changing resources that lead me to communicate better, understand myself, and appreciate myself. It brings hope. I listened to almost every one of your YouTube videos, and after a few years, I signed up. Even though I had done a lot of healing before I signed up, it helps to reinforce what I've already learned, and I've also learned new things. It's very cleverly designed and unique in providing layered levels of help, intervention, connection, tools, therapeutic support, and accurately targets the complex combination of hidden harms and abuses that are so very hard to nail, which women in our situations perhaps don't realize we did so desperately need to have and know until we got behind the door of the kaleidoscope world and began to orient ourselves at the speeds we're individually capable of going, depending on our contexts and circumstances. The platform gives room for all of us to navigate and work at different speeds of journeying too. A powerful aspect of it for me, since joining, has been knowing I am connected to a community simply through the membership, and that in itself is like a pair of undergirding arms and an embrace. And from there, I've been moving slowly, but surely through. Flying Free has helped me get stronger, grow, and find my voice, and even helped my marriage. I know I wouldn't be where I am today had I not found Flying Free. Flying Free is the most real and honest wife help. The content is excellent and exactly what I needed to hear. This material is easy to access and directly addressed my greatest needs. I also loved all the outside book and podcast recommendations. The price was also affordable, even on a limited budget. There is truth here. It is kind, but it is not necessarily sugar-coated. It helps you grow. Flying Free has been a huge part of my journey to freedom. I honestly don't know where I'd be without this community. I see Natalie's ministry as a tree with branches, being many other resources that I found through her, and together they have all changed my thinking and my life. Flying Free saved my daughter's lives by keeping me from going back, by listening to the in real life voices instead of the truth tellers here. Natalie's guidance and coaching helped me to get off my butt and do something about my situation by reversing the complex post-traumatic stress disorder I was experiencing. Tons of great information at your fingertips. A great way to immerse yourself in all of these true thoughts. Anytime you can just listen to something helpful on a relevant topic. All of the resources I've accessed in the Kaleidoscope have had an impact on my healing journey and navigating the separation and divorce process. And finally, I have looked a long time for quality material like this, and it's a huge help. So if this is something that you would like to experience in your own life, it's very difficult for me to explain what's on the other side of that door. I like how the one woman put it. It's like this kaleidoscope world. It's a door you walk through. And when you get to the other side, it's this beautiful world where all these beautiful butterflies, a kaleidoscope, the word kaleidoscope means a flock of butterflies. And when you walk through that door into that world, it's like, the way I imagine is like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Remember that movie, the old one? Well, the new one too. And you walk into that world and it's like a completely different universe. And you're going to learn things that you have never learned before. And I'm not just going to teach you these things. I'm going to help you apply them to your life so that you can actually change your life. You'll change the way you think, which will then in turn change the way you feel. And when you feel differently, you're going to start showing up differently for your life. And that's how your life will change. And that's what it just works. It's been 8 years of doing this with thousands of women, and it just works. These are just a few. We get reviews like this in our forum every single day. And then this survey, of course, put a bunch of them all together. So I thought I'd just share it with you. Kind of like a fire hose, I guess. But I hope that was helpful. If you want to join, if you're ready to open that door and come to the other side, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of a glimpse into the other side and what's possible for you, go to joinflyingfree.com and you can join today. I hope to see you on the other side. Hey, beautiful butterfly. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe and then consider leaving a rating and review so others can find us. To connect with me and get a free chapter of my book, head over to flyingfreenow.com. And until next time, fly free.